Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
Welcome back to Worst Seats in the House. Mike Russo, Anthony LaPanta. I'm back here on a very early morning flight. Anthony, I have a feeling you were supposed to be on that plane since Delta was paging you to the front about 10 different times, and yet you never showed up.
Well, I don't think that means I was supposed to be on the flight. I was originally on the flight, but I had a better option, so I decided to take that, exercised my option, and flew home with the team last night instead. You should really take flights like that late night after the game. It's so much easier to just hop on a plane that leaves 4 hours after game time and get home and get a little sleep before a podcast.
All right, Anthony. Question for you.
Yeah.
Did you cancel the flight?
Apparently not.
Yeah. So, first of all, I don't know if you're aware, but FanDuel is not doing well, so you probably should have canceled the flight because they're probably down to like their last like $100 now. So you might want to get that refund for them.
Yeah, well, they're down to their last couple days, so I'd probably would have been. I wouldn't have anyway. I was about to say that I probably would have been a little more tuned into it if I thought we were going to be around for 10 more years, but I probably wouldn't have thought about it then either.
Yeah. Do you know Jack from 10,000 Takes?
No.
So Jack is started this multimedia company here. It's awesome, very entertaining. So he was down there, and I guess he was the last person on standby, and he only got his seat on the plane because you were not there.
Oh, is that right? Well, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad I helped him out. See, I'm just trying to help other people and give them opportunities. And that the truth is that I never really even thought about it, but I think I've told you the story before one time where it was then Fox Sports North, but we were going down to Lambeau Field to cover a college hockey game between Ohio State and Wisconsin. And I had a flight to go down there, but had decided I'll just jump in the car and ride down there with our crew the day before instead. So I rode down there. And then when the game ended, we bolted to the airport to try to make this flight home. And when I got to the airport, they were like, nope. Your flight's canceled because you didn't take the first leg down. I was like, well, that's I have paid for the ticket.
Yeah.
And so in cases like this, I never even think about it because I just think, well, the ticket's gone anyway. I mean, what difference does it make?
All right. Big win last night. Anthony, I did feel like you in the press room. You could ask Kevin Gorg. He will tell you I predicted last night to a T that the Wild were going to win that game and win fairly easily. And I just think, look, this is 5 games now. I don't know if you agree with me here, but did you find the body language and the demeanor of the Dallas Stars after they made it 3-2 a little weird?
I thought that, in the game you're talking about when they made it 3-2?
So they make it 3-2 with 3:21 left. They barely celebrated. Mikko Rantanen just skated right to center ice. Jason Robertson almost reluctantly went to the bench for the flyby, and there was like no enthusiasm on the bench. I actually looked at the scoreboard to double check that they were down 3-2 and not like 5-2.
Yeah,
it was bizarre.
It was weird. And all series I've thought that Dallas's even keel demeanor was going to be a good thing for them, that they were unflappable after they got blown out in game 1. I had a conversation with Wes Walls right before the series started, and I just said, there's nothing that's going to happen in these early games of the series that this Dallas club hasn't experienced before and experienced largely together. And I really thought that experience was going to be an advantage for them. And early in the series, it kind of played out that way. They got blown out in game 1, didn't really matter, responded with the same business-like approach in game 2 and in game 3. And I thought what was going to be interesting to see was them in game 5, because it was, if you remember when we did our show after game 3, and there was a fair amount of panic in the Wild fan base, and you felt the same thing, like, here we go again. And I kept looking at it thinking, you just lost a game in double overtime and you're down 2-1. This has been a great series so far. It looks like it's going to be a long series. Well, Dallas was in the same boat when they lost game 4 in overtime, where it's, now can you just remember, it's just one game. You lost it in overtime. It certainly had chances that they could have won that game in overtime and been ahead 3-1. And will they just come out and approach it the same way in game 5? And I really thought their start was lackluster last night. And then throughout the game, I agree with you. I think that third goal for Minnesota just really took the wind completely out of their sails. And when Glenn Gulletson pulled the goaltender with 5 minutes left, I thought, well, this guy's not giving up. He's taken the shot here when it was 4-on-4 to essentially play power play when the Wild can't ice the puck. And they got the goal, but it just felt like that third goal really just had them convinced they couldn't win the game anymore. And I had an interesting conversation with Ryan Carter about it, where I said, I shared with him the thought about Dallas's experience, and he actually made a good point where he said, sometimes all that experience can take away the urgency in a series. And I think maybe that's what happened with Dallas last night, where they just didn't seem to have that. It was almost like they were too calm and comfortable in just another game, just play it just like we always play it, too businesslike, instead of realizing how special the opportunity was at their hands to reclaim control of the series with a home ice victory. And they were never the better team on the ice in last night's game.
Yeah, like I read it, the way I read it was almost like the Wild sucked the soul out of them. But, they've made it so hard for them at 5-on-5, and I get it. Like, the shots are actually at 5-on-5 dead even in the series. 116, 116.
Shots, attempts, expected goals, they're all about.
The only difference is high danger shots. But
high danger shots, but if you look going into last night, this was the closest series of all 8 in terms of expected goals at 5-on-5. The Wild were at 50.5%, Dallas at 49.5%. The closest. And yet it had the second biggest spread of 5-on-5 goals. Only Colorado and LA was a larger goal differential. So there were some things like that I kind of felt going into last night, like some of this stuff is going to even out. This has been a series where the Wild have gotten a lot of bounces and a lot of breaks, and I felt like it might be the even out night last night and something would go Dallas's way, and it just didn't. The close calls, the rebounds that Wallstead left, Minnesota was able to clear away. The chance that lands on Johnston's stick right in front, he backhands and just misses the corner. A puck bounced over Robertson's stick. It just felt like it was maybe a team that just started to wonder if it just isn't everything stacked against us right now. It seems like every bounce is going Minnesota's way. And to Minnesota's credit, they've earned some of those bounces and have made it really tough on Dallas throughout this series.
Well, and that's what I mean by that they've sucked the soul out of this team. It just feels like the effort level that the Wild are willing to play at, that Dallas isn't willing to match that right now. Everything from the way that the Wild backcheck, to the way that they're in their face, to the way that they block shots, to, there's been very few odd man rushes in this entire series for Dallas. And right now the goals are at even strength. The Wild have outscored them 14-4. At 5-on-5, it's 11-3. They haven't had a 5-on-5 goal in 200 plus minutes. And, the Wild got their power play goal last night, and they killed the last 3 penalties of the game. And to your point before, it's almost fitting that the only goal that they scored, or the second goal that they scored after the power play, was just what they turned into a 5-on-4 again by pulling Jake Ottinger on what would have been a 4-on-4.
You know what's kind of interesting is that I think the whole mentality of this series has been interesting to watch. And I had a chat with Jamie Benn yesterday at after the morning skate, and I asked him about the rivalry between the teams. First of all, I asked him a little bit about being the villain, and he looked at me, and Jess Myers was standing there, and he looked at both of us. He said, "Really? Like, is that me?" It's like, well, I think he's playing a little possum there. I'm pretty sure he knew it was him. But when I asked him about the rivalry growing, because he's experienced so much of it, and I said, has this started to develop into a rivalry that matters as much to Dallas as it does to Minnesota? And he kind of shrugged and said, not really. He said, I think it's probably bigger to them just because of the whole franchise moving and everything. And it got me to think as I walked away that this series means everything to the Wild. It's been 10 years since they've advanced to the second round. A couple years it's been the city that stole their team in Dallas. And you get the feel like even though not all of these guys for the Wild have been here for the playoff frustrations over the last decade, but a few of them have. And enough of the leaders now have been here for enough of them where I feel like there's almost enough is enough. We're tired of hearing that it's the same old Wild. This series means everything to Bill Guerin. It means everything to the Wild coaching staff. Like, it just feels like it means a lot more to the Wild than it does to Dallas. And that's a strange thing to say when you're in a Stanley Cup playoff series because of how much the playoffs mean to all players in the NHL. But I just think there's a different edge. And right now, I think when you look at this sixth game coming up in St. Paul, this might be the single biggest game that the Wild have played. And I know they've had some big game sevens in their past, but in the 0-3 run, everything was house money. They weren't supposed to be where they were, and even the 14 playoff series in Denver, they're going up against the division champs. They're down all night. It was just kind of a team that was overachieving. Now they're the team that has some different expectations, and you got a chance to kill some demons here. A Dallas team that's beaten you twice in the playoffs, 3 years in a row where you've been up in a series and haven't been able to finish. Now you got a chance to finish on home ice for the first time since 2015. That you're sitting in a 3-2 series lead. I think this might be as big a game as the Wild have played in their franchise's history.
I completely agree with you. This is their opportunity. Last time they did this in 2015, to your point, they went down to St. Louis, won a huge Game 5, great game by Devin Dubnyk, came home and took care of business. And you do not want to go back to Dallas for Game 7, especially also because if you win that game, you're probably starting 2 days later in Denver too. I mean, the one thing here is you get a little rest if you close it out Thursday night.
Yeah, which would help for sure. But I just think there's so much, internal pressure might be the wrong word, but I think there's so much that has trickled down, and it's everywhere in the organization. Like, you can feel it when you talk to the leadership, from the business side to starting from the top. I mean, this is a group we've waited long enough. It's time for Minnesota to win a playoff series. And I think it's started to trickle down into a group of players that is playing with a ton of confidence right now. And when you look at the way they responded in this series to that double overtime loss in Game 3, I think you really have to be impressed with how they bounced back from what could have been a crushing loss. I mean, not only to lose in double overtime, but to lose when you had a lead in the third period and to lose on a couple power play goals the way they did, and yet just to come back and say, all right, now it's time to reclaim control of this series, and their superstar players have stepped up at big times. The way that they've scored in this series and have ridden their star players. I mean, nobody in the playoffs has more points than Kirill Kaprizov, and the guy at even strength has been an absolute dominant player. Matt Boldy, Brock Faber, you name it. They're star players. I mean, to start to look at any of the comparisons, Kaprizov, I don't know which guy you want to pick. Kaprizov compared to Robertson, Boldy compared to Rantanen, Faber I would probably say Faber compared to Heiskanen as opposed to Hughes compared to Heiskanen, but then compare Hughes to Harley. I mean, every single spot, the Wild's go-to guy has been better than Dallas's go-to equivalent.
You've heard me talk about the Onyx Hunt app on here for years. Well, make sure you download the Onyx Fish app as well, because before you even pull the boat out of the garage, you can sort lakes by species, trophy potential, and keeper potential, so you're not just guessing and you're going out with a plan. You could also use the Onyx Fish app to filter walleye, bass, panfish, whatever you're chasing, and see species abundance and size data so you actually know what's in the lake before you launch. Everything you need to get there and get on fish is all in one app. Boat ramps, lake access points, public versus private land, points of interest like bait shops and camping. It's all built into the app. No more scrambling around 3 different apps or outdated reports. Onyx Fish gives you the proven fishing area data and local insights that used to take years to learn. So you could do a decade of knowledge all in about 10 minutes. So download Onyx Fish on the App Store or visit onyxmaps.com/fish. Spring fishing is here. Go find a lake you've been driving past for years and finally find out if it's worth the launch. Do I have a can't miss out of this world event that'll make your water worry-free and your home ridiculously cozy and comfy? It's the Aquarius Home Services and Connecticut Customer Appreciation 3-day open house. Aquarius's biggest sale of the year, happening Friday, May 1st through Sunday, May 3rd. Enjoy a weekend packed with fun, a delicious pig roast, lots of gifts and prizes, and yes, even a petting zoo for the kiddos on Saturday and Sunday. The open house is jam-packed with all kinds of savings. Up to 30% off Connecticut, the world's most efficient water treatment system. I have it, you'll love it. 20% off salt and water filters. Up to 30% off heating and cooling systems, plus huge savings on generators, water heaters, and more. Plus, bring a water sample from your home or cabin. They'll test it for free while you eat, explore, and score some deals. It's all happening in Little Canada at 694 and 35E, right across from Dock 86. Aquarius Home Services. Go to aquariushomeservices.com right now for all the details and see you there. Aquarius Home Services, earning the right to be recommended.
Are you looking to move a little easier and feel better day to day? StretchLab can help. StretchLab is the leader in one-on-one assisted stretching with locations across the Twin Cities. Every session is customized, whether you're chasing a loose puck, grinding through men's league, or just trying to keep up with the game. It's not just recovery, it's mobility, prevention, and performance. Tight hips, sore back, it's all about staying in the game, whatever your game looks like. Don't sit this shift out. Book your first stretch today and feel the difference.
A great haircut is always a mood booster, but it's even better when it's convenient too. That's why you'll love online check-in at Great Clips. You just check in from your phone and get a ready next text when you're up next. Plus, with the convenient hours at Great Clips salons, you can get a haircut even when you're really busy. So if your hair and your mood could use a boost, download the app today, Great Clips. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I agree with you. And man, Boldy again last night, just, such a beast. Kaprizov gets Zuccarello back. The two of them really good together. Obviously, very fitting that 351 into the game. Kaprizov sets up Zuccarello for the goal. Michael McCarron, Anthony, I think that you and I both, I think we respected the player, didn't love the price, but my God, has he come here and just been huge block shots last night in the third period on the penalty kill. Obviously scores the huge goal. Very much, I know you believe in karma, but not jinxes. Last night was proof that karma exists. My God, was Tyler Myers horrendous. Cost them the power play goal because he jumped on way too soon. Made the mistake on the McCarron goal. Turned the puck over for the Zuccarello goal. Was finally had to be benched because he was unplayable. Really not a good game by Tyler.
Yeah, he struggled, and it's an example of a guy that had to play in an increased role because of injury. The Lundqvist injury really hurts Dallas. He and Harley had been a good second pair, and now all of a sudden, they're trying to play Myers more minutes than he normally plays, and he got exposed. And that's why I just there are so many little things like that, subtle little things that seem to be favoring the Wild, but they've also put themselves in the right spots. And right now, Dallas has been without Hintz this entire series. Now they lose Lundqvist, and where in the past it's been the Wild that have had guys falling out of series along the way. Minnesota gets healthy last night with both Trenyan and Zuccarello coming back. But to Minnesota's credit, some of those depth moves that were made both in the offseason and then at the trade deadline have really paid dividends. And this is a team that now, with some of those guys out, they were able to throw Bobby Brink in their top 6 instead of having to put an inexperienced guy from within their organization up there. Not to say that Brink is like brimming with experience, but he brought a little bit more punch. They added Sturm in the offseason. They added McCarron.
I would bet my life that Brink doesn't play again.
Well, I don't think he's going to play in the next game. I don't know if I'd say again, but I thought he had an opportunity last night because he had played well in the previous 3 games. Now, I think we'll probably see Urov back in the next game, but that's my point, is that they've got more options now.
I mean, I think one thing they could do is just keep Nick Foligno there with Yakov Trenyan and Michael McCarron there with Yakov Trenyan and Vladimir Tarasenko, and then go with a Nico Sturm, Nick Foligno, Marcus Foligno line. Like I just think that Brink, that line got hemmed in. He turned the puck over for the 1 goal that led to his penalty that led to the goal.
But the point I'm making with all this is that we're talking about all these options because of the depth moves that Billy Guerin made. He brought in McCarron. He brought in Nick Foligno at the deadline. He brought in Brink at the deadline. He brought in Sturm in the offseason. So they've got, adding Tarasenko, they've got so many different options right now that in previous years they haven't had. So yes, Dallas has some injury issues right now, but Minnesota dealt with their injury issues earlier in the series in a better way because their roster was better built to do so. And yes, McCarron's been a part of that. So I just think now you're looking at, and we thought going into the series, you'd have some choices to make. If you wanted to get faster, maybe you're having trouble scoring, Brink might be the guy. You're trying to get a little heavier, a little bigger, a little stronger. Maybe it's Nick Foligno, McCarron, all those guys in your bottom 6. You need a little bit more speed on your penalty kill. Maybe Sturm's the guy. And we've seen Sturm have it. He was great in game 4. Brink had been good in games 2, 3, 4. Wasn't good in game 5. I don't think we'll see him in game 6, but that doesn't mean that we won't see him again in the playoffs. I just think you've got, right now, you have to be impressed, and you have to give some credit to the way the Wild built this roster, because it's given them options that they can change the makeup of their club with some of the guys they have available.
Wild do suddenly have an injury now, Anthony, with Jonas Brodin out of the lineup. Blocked a shot from Mikko Rantanen last night, and obviously did not look good. He left the arena on crutches and in a walking boot. And that could be a huge loss, not just for these next game or 2, but if the Wild do advance, obviously going against Colorado. First things first, obviously Jake Middleton will go up with Jared Spurgeon. Zach Bogosian just looks like, I've seen him. He can barely walk right now. He obviously gets exposed on the Robertson goal last night because he can't move. You kind of wonder, do they, with Brodin out, do you go a Bogosian-Petrie pair with 2 righties, or do you go Hunt-Petrie and sit down Bogosian and try to get him healthy? Or do you go, Hunt-Bogosian?
Well, it's 100% a guess, but I think my first thought would be Hunt and Bogosian, just to go lefty-righty, and Hunt has shown that his mobility can be a factor in the series. Petrie, I thought, was fine for Minnesota down the stretch, but again, here we go with the depth that they have. You've got options with a 7th and 8th defenseman that, right now, if I was Dallas, would you have rather had Petrie or Hunt to throw in your lineup than Liabushkin or Petrovic or some of their options? I think I would have preferred to have the options that the Wild have at their disposal right now. And, I think Hunt has been really underrated for Minnesota this year. I think he's really grown into a more confident and puck moving, skating defenseman. So it wouldn't shock me. I think that might be the first way I would go, would be Hunt and Bogosian on the 3rd set, but we'll find out.
5 guys total have goals for the Dallas Stars. It's amazing. They don't have any goals from anybody in their bottom 6. How many games do you think Ryan Hartman would have gotten if he had cross-checked Jamie Benn in the head the way that Jamie Benn cross-checked Ryan Hartman in the head?
Yeah, he might not be available for the next one. That's for sure.
Or the next 20.
Yeah, that we were just talking about that play this morning a little bit, and Hartman clips him with a high stick. It didn't get called. I don't know if that's what cut Ben or not. It looked like he might have gotten cut when they bonked heads after the cross check. I'm not really sure, but bottom line is it was a frustration play by Ben, who I actually thought was pretty good in last night's game. I thought was his best game of the series in terms of how involved in their offense he was and had a couple of momentum-changing shifts, but lost his cool at that moment. I'm sure some of the frustration of the game was setting in, knew he had gotten clipped with Hartman's stick, but didn't get the call, which thankfully, finally, officials that had been fooled by his dive earlier in the game didn't give him the benefit of the doubt for that one. Maybe that's karma coming back too.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't cross-check a guy in the back of the head like that without any repercussions.
Yeah. I'll bet anything that he gets fined today and no suspension.
Well, yeah, I would be shocked if there was a suspension.
You know, the other one, to your point on dives, I think these refs are starting to listen to you and me and how, not giving guys the benefit of the doubt, because now anytime Rantanen goes down, he usually doesn't draw a penalty. And last night, kind of got tripped up by Boldy.
Yeah.
Goes down hard. They don't call it. And I really do think the MO is out, man. Like he goes down and he goes down and he goes down. And I think these refs are aware.
Well, I would like to think that would be a factor. On that particular play, I didn't think it was a dive. I actually thought it should have been a trip against.
No, that's what I mean. I just think that the referees are not. It's like you and I have always said. I don't care if it's a trip or not anymore. Sorry, if you're gonna make a fool out of these guys, you don't call it.
I'm not giving you the benefit of the doubt. I got to make sure I see it. Now, I will say on that play that Ryan Carter disagreed. He thought that I got to make sure I word this the way he did. He said that he thought it could have been called, but that it's a play he doesn't think should be a trip because he thought Boldy should have some entitlement to his ice. I thought to me, it's a trip that gets called 8 times out of 10. When you clip the other guy's skates with your skate, whether intentional or otherwise, you get called for a trip. But that's just kind of an example of this series. If you remember last year, there were so many close calls, bad bounces, the call that could be made but wasn't. It seemed like every one of those breaks in that series last year went Vegas's way. I thought Minnesota was every bit as good as Vegas, and it just felt like even the offside play that negated the Hartman goal, it was like everything that was an inch or two one way or the other all seemed to go against the Wild. Where in this series, they've gotten a fair share that have gone their way, and that's an example of it. That play that certainly could be called, not necessarily had to be called, but could have been called, and they've gotten a couple breaks that way. And now we got to see if they can take advantage of that and finish this off in Game 6.
Thursday night, 6:30 p.m. Puck drop probably a little bit later. But we're getting at least a good time because the Edmonton Oilers took care of business yesterday, and now it's 2 games, so they'll be the late game. What do you expect in Game 6? I think the Wild take advantage and close it out.
Yeah, I would imagine that, it'll be interesting to see right from the start. Does Dallas come out with a desperation level that we didn't see in Game 5, which was, it's still a head scratcher to me. I thought that game, after the way Games 2, 3, 4 had gone on both sides, both teams had now had played just one game in 5 days. I thought we would have seen an energy and an intensity level from the start. I thought the first period might have been as dull a period as we've seen in this series from both teams. So I think we'll know really early. Does Dallas come out with an urgency that is a season on the line that we haven't seen yet in this series? Or is it Minnesota that hits the ice like they've been shot out of a cannon in front of what I'm sure is going to be a raucous building with a chance for the first time, up 3-2 in a series for the first time since 2015, to close somebody out? I think we'll know in the first couple of minutes of the game. I'm guessing that we see a Dallas club that comes with a desperation, and Minnesota has to weather a storm at some point in the first period. And I think it comes down to the same 2 things that we've been talking about all series long, which is, can Minnesota be the more physical team but yet stay out of the box? And does Jesper Wallstedt continue to play beyond his experience in the NHL? I thought last night was the first time he didn't look 100% confident with pucks. There were some rebounds there, but Minnesota's defense played so well in front of him, they made sure he didn't pay for that. And what was it, 11 shots on goal through 36 minutes of the game last night, where it's, I think the way the team defended in front of them, they protected them through that. So I think as long as those two things continue to happen, I like Minnesota's chances to close it out.
Yeah, Volstad said exactly that after the game. He didn't like the way that he played in the first couple periods, and at least settled in for, I thought a really good third period, and he did too. So what you were seeing is definitely what he was feeling. Anthony, any other thoughts before we wrap up the show?
No, I think it's an exciting time right now, and that's whatever happens in Game 6. I think the Wild have shown, no matter what happens the rest of this series, is to go back to some of the questions we had early in the series. Is this Wild team different? The answer is yes. And Dallas could still win 2 games in a row and win this series. I don't think it's going to happen, but they could. But what the Wild have shown here is that this club is on the verge of making a cup run. It might be in 2026, it might be in 27 or 28, but this core, I think, has shown they're ready to take the next step.
Well, awesome job with this pod. Awesome job with last night's call, Anthony. I will see you tomorrow, and we'll see if we have not only a closeout game, but maybe the final game on FanDuel Sports North. How about that?
Could be.
That's crazy. Thanks to our incredible sponsors, Aquarius Home Services, your local authorized dealer for Connecticut water treatment systems, Great Clips, Stretch Lab, and Onyx Maps. Talk to you after Game 6, everybody.
So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world won't forgive.